A very good evening to all our viewers. Today is the 15th of December. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Yuki Portia. Before we head into stories in detail, let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Defense Secretary rejects claim that intelligence units paid Zahran Hashim. Chinese ambassador visits the north, inspects Point Pedro using a drone. Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa goes overseas. Consumer Affairs Authority rejects new gas consignment. Will the proroguing of Parliament stop investigations into the sugar scam? SLPP budget defeated in the Katana and Medavachya Pradeshya Sabhas.
Starting off with your top story for tonight, Defense Secretary retired General Kamal Gunaratne has rejected allegations that the intelligence units had paid the group, including Zahran Hashim, that carried out the April 21st attacks. Now, speaking at a media briefing at the President's Media Center, he said he had investigated these allegations after being appointed as the Defense Secretary.
After I was appointed as the Secretary to the Defence Ministry, I launched a full-scale investigation into those allegations. They are completely false. When they were trying to find out the mastermind behind the attacks, many people tried to create the impression that the President was the mastermind and that the April 21st attacks were carried out to pave the way for him to come to power. Some people are trying to engage in such shameful strategies to gain political advantage. That is a very pathetic situation.
නොයෙක් දෙනා දේශපාලන වාසි ලබා ගැනීමට ඉතාමත්ම කනගාටුදායක තත්ත්වයක් ඒක.
රාජ්‍ය බුද්ධි අංශයේ ප්‍රධානියා මේ කුමන්ත්‍රණයක කොටසක් විදිහට ගාවන්න උත්සාහ කිරීම සහ ඒකේ දැන් තත්ත්වය අපි දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
ඔය නිලධාරියාගේ නම සුරේෂ් සාලේ.
The name of that officer is Suresh Saleh. I know that Saleh is a Muslim name. As far as I know, he is not involved in such matters. He can't even speak a word in Tamil. Neither can he speak in Arabic. He hasn't read the Quran. He is married to a Buddhist. If I am not mistaken, he has 2 children. Both of them have Sinhalese names. Therefore, he does not have extremist views. He is a skilled and valuable officer who served his country by placing his life at risk.
තමන්ගේ ජීවිතය පරදුවට තියලා වැඩ කරපු ඉතාමත්ම වටිනා ඉතාමත්ම දක්ෂ නිලධාරියෙක්.
පක්ෂයේ මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් හෝ ආණ්ඩුවට එරෙහි බලවේග වල දුරකථන ටැප් කිරීමේ යාන්ත්‍රණයක් ආරක්ෂක අංශ කමිටුවේ සිදු කරනවාද කියලා මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
මම ආරක්ෂක ලේකම් විදියට බොහොම.
As the Defence Secretary, I wish to responsibly say that the military or intelligence units don't tap into mobile phones. We require certain details for some investigations. Based on the orders issued by the court, we obtain some information from telecommunication service providers. Apart from that, we don't tap into telephones. We don't have the equipment to do that.
Questions were raised on whether certain agreements signed for investment purposes have an impact on national security.
I wish to responsibly say that we will point out if any agreements will pose a threat to national security. Nothing has emerged like that yet. If it's a threat to national security, the President won't allow that to happen. I don't agree with the claims that 3 northern islands are to be given away to China. The government doesn't have any plans to give away islands to any country. The only thing is that we need investments if we are to move forward as a country. When we call for bids to construct solar power panels, and if only a few investors come forward, we must select the investor with the most benefit to the country. If a Chinese company is chosen like that, it must not be misinterpreted. It is completely false to say that islands are being sold to China. The government hasn't signed any agreement that threatens national security.
ඒක වැරදි විදියට අර්ථකථනය කරන්න එපා කරුණා කළා මේක මේ චීනට දූපත් විකුණනවා කියන එක සම්පූර්ණ බොරු කතාවක්. ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට තර්ජනයක් වෙන කිසිම ගිවිසුමක් මේ රජය මෙතෙක් කල් අත්සන් කළා.
Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Ki Zhenghong, began his visit to the northern region today. He visited Point Pedro as part of his 3-day visit to the north.
Opposite is Indian continent. Indian Ocean. 30 kilometers from here on this side.
he visited this location where I am in right now, the Sacote Cape in Point Pedro, Jaffna. He visited this location. He came with his team. He took a few photographs with his team using a drone, and he engaged in a conversation with the army officers deployed here, and he left. Now, during his 2-day tour to the north of Sri Lanka, he will be visiting some strategically important locations in this part of the island.
The Chinese ambassador later made a donation to the public library in Jaffna. He also inspected the Indian center at the library.
Has China suspended the energy projects in the north?
The Northern Power Plant project is the Asian Development Bank's project, so all the parties follow the procedures and contracts. The whole situation can be solved properly. I don't have any doubts about that.
Follow the international commercial practice. We can deal with these issues properly.
The Chinese ambassador participated in a discussion with Northern Province Governor Jeevan Tyagaraja and inspected a building of archaeological value. Security was tightened in Vaunia in line with the Chinese ambassador's visit to the region. Our correspondents reported that the Chinese ambassador had left for Jaffna after visiting the Vanni Security Forces headquarters.
Former President and the chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Maithripala Sirisena, expressed his views on the Chinese fertilizer debacle at the party headquarters today.
My stance is that we should not give a red cent to China. It is the money of the people that we have to give. There is an economic crisis in the country. Therefore, we are against paying the Chinese fertilizer ship. The ministers or the experts must have gone to China and checked this fertilizer. No one is talking about them. We need to find out who they are and punish them too.
Many factions have raised concerns about the selling off of 40% of shares of the Yugadanavi power plant to an American company. Minister of Energy expressed the following views on this matter today.
Even during the previous regime, there were talks in place to obtain LNG from an American company. This agreement would also give them 40% of the shares. The Sri Lankan government will own the remaining stake. It is because of this agreement that so many debates have ensued in the country. This will come to an end when the court verdict is issued in the coming future. According to what we see, no one will be able to interfere with the electricity monopoly of Sri Lanka. They will be in charge of 350 megawatts only, and for that, they will supply us with LNG. They will give us LNG, but the distribution process will be carried out by a company affiliated with the Treasury. The American company will not do any distributions in the country.
The cabinet has no understanding either on the conditions of this agreement or what is the proper amount. However, this agreement has not been signed with the cabinet-approved New Fortress Energy, but with a company called NFE Lanka Power Holdings. Didn't the secretary to the Treasury read this agreement? Didn't he have an understanding of this matter, or was he influenced by a higher authority? This NFE Lanka Power Holdings company is registered in Delaware in the US. This company has been registered on the 23rd of February 2021. This company is not even 1 year old. The cabinet has given the go-ahead for this agreement by violating the law and the energy provisions in place in the country. They have violated the faith that the general public has bestowed upon the cabinet. It is against the procurement process that the cabinet has given the approval to purchase LNG for 3 billion rupees.
Cabinet Mandaliya විසින් මේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කළ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාව මත අවසර ලබා දෙන්න.
Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa has left for Dubai this morning on a personal visit. Duty manager at the Bandaranaike International Airport said the finance minister left the country on an Emirates flight at around 2:55 a.m. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had left the country on a personal visit to Singapore as well on the 13th of this month. People are talking about the overseas visit of Basil Rajapaksa. All of us are eagerly awaiting a change for the country under his leadership. The opposition is very attentive towards where he goes. He went on a small vacation and he will be back soon. He left the country against a backdrop where everything is prepared. When he is back, what everyone else has to do is to do their duty properly for the prosperity of this country.
තියෙන්නේ. එතුමාගෙත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන අනිත් සියලු දෙනාට තියෙන්නේ මේ රට සුඛිත මුදිත කරන්නට තමන්ගේ තියෙන රාජකාරී හරියට කරලා පෙන්නන්න.
Janata Vimukti Peramuna leader Anura Kumara Disanayaka raised questions on Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa's overseas visit. This was during an event in Kabatigulaba.
Other container 1500කට වඩා වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක්.
More than 1,500 containers of essential goods are stuck at the port. They have signed an agreement to give away the Keravalapitia power plant to the US. Gas cylinder explosions are occurring in the country. The finance minister is in charge of the state-run gas company. The cost of essential goods has increased. People are finding it difficult to survive daily. It's the finance minister who has to resolve these matters. But what is the finance minister doing? At a time when people are facing mounting problems, they are going to the US to visit their relatives. Therefore, the finance minister and the government are running the country with only their objectives in mind. The agreement signed to give away the Yugadhanvi power plant to the US shows that he is a finance minister responsible to the US and not to Sri Lanka. The country is being manipulated by the US and is being run in a way that US wants by selling off national assets.
ඇමරිකාවට උන විදිහට අපේ සම්පත් පාවා දෙන රාජ්‍යයක් බවට පත් වී තිබෙනවා.
The new parliamentary session is set to begin on the 18th of January after the President prorogued Parliament before going overseas. Was Parliament prorogued as the misdealings of the government was being exposed by parliamentary committees? Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed the views on this matter during an event to declare open the Dhamma School building at the Aravana Mula Temple in Hambantota.
ඔය විවිධ කරුණු කාරණා පිළිබඳව පරීක්ෂණ කරන්නට යෙදුණු
The COPE, COPA and the Committee on Public Finance will cease to exist through this. The terms of the chairman of all three committees have come to an end. This includes MPs Anura Priyadarshana, Charita Herath and Tissa Vitarana. When they appoint new members and chairmen to these committees, they will have an opportunity to hide all these corrupt dealings. We wish to request for a chance to table all the reports in Parliament, although parliamentary sessions have been prorogued. The chairman of those committees must not be changed. Especially Anura Priyadarshana, who chaired the committee that investigated the sugar scam.
ඒ කමිටුවේ සභාපතිවරයා වන අනුර යාපා මැතිතුමාට ඒ සභාපතිකම ලබා දෙන්නට ඕන.
With the decision of the President to prorogue Parliament, all parliamentary select committees will now cease to exist. The committees were tasked with extensively looking into various affairs in Parliament and produce reports on the progress of those matters. Amidst the committees that are now unable to operate because of the prorogation, the Committee on Public Accounts takes centre stage. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP Anura Priyadarshana Yapa chaired the Committee on Public Accounts. Ruling party and opposition MPs Bandula Gunawardena, Keheliya Rambukwella, Sarath Veerasekara, Susil Premajantha, Vidura Vikramanayaka, D.V. Chanaka, Nalaka Kodaheva, Vijita Herath, Dilan Pereira, Kumara Velgama, Harsha De Silva, Manusha Nanayakara, M.S. Sumandiran, Kavinda Jayawardena, Mujibur Rahman, Isuru Todangoda, Anupa Pascual, Nalin Fernando, Sahan Pradeep and Professor Ranjit Bandara were the members of the Committee on Public Accounts. The Committee on Public Accounts brought many significant topics related to state funds to the limelight in the recent past. One of the allegations the Committee on Public Accounts levelled was the reduction of the tax imposed on sugar to 25 cents, and that a company with a massive stock of sugar at the time reaping an enormous profit. MPs of both ruling and opposition factions pointed out before the Finance Committee that the general public did not gain any benefit from the reduction of this tax. After the Finance Committee informed the Ministry of Finance on numerous occasions, the Ministry of Finance released a report revealing that the government has lost 15 billion rupees from this change of tax. If the government had the opportunity to retrieve this money, what are the steps that should have been taken? The government allocated 8 billion rupees for those who lost their income due to COVID-19 from Budget 2022. 500 million rupees was allocated to abolish pension payment anomalies. 1 billion rupees was allocated for the nutrition package for expectant mothers. And if the sugar scam did not take place in the country, wouldn't the government be able to allocate the lost 15 billion rupees for all these sectors through the budget? The Committee on Public Accounts was the body that revealed the sugar scam, and now the committee is no more. When Parliament convenes next January, the committee will have to appoint a new chairman and new members.
A massive controversy arose after the Committee on Public Accounts exposed a massive scam involving tax fraud that allowed a selected group to earn benefits. Who was involved in this? What were their connections? There are rumors that these people are going on foreign tours with them. We have suspicion whether they are trying to appoint people who can be manipulated to these committees instead of appointing members like Anura Priyadarshana Yapa, and to cover up the investigations into the scam that has taken place through sugar by looting taxes and pillaging the people. The budgets of the Katana and Madhavachiya Pradesh Sabhas that are controlled by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was defeated today. A tense situation arose at the Madhavachiya Pradesh Sabha after the opposition's request for a vote was rejected. The chairman of the Pradesh Sabha left the session amidst objection by the opposition. The budget was defeated by a majority of 6 votes in the vote that was held after that. 12 votes were cast against the budget, while 6 votes were cast in favour. Chanak Vijay Surya, the vice chairman of the Madhavachiya Pradesh Sabha, then presided over the sitting.
සභිකයන් විසින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ලබන සංශෝධන සභාපතිවරයා පිළිගන්නේ නම් ඒ සභාපතිවරයාගේ පනත අනුව ඉල්ලා 80 වාසයේ සලකුණු ලබනවා.
The budget of the Katana Pradesh Sabha that is controlled by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was defeated by a majority of 8 votes today. 17 votes were received in favour, while 25 votes were cast against the budget. 15 members from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and 1 member from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party voted against the budget.
The appeal court has permitted limited objections to be made against a petition filed by the President and the Vice President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. The petition has sought a court order to cancel a gazette requiring the mandatory conversion of foreign remittances to rupees. Minister of Finance Basil Rajapaksa, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka Ajit Nivad Cabral, and the Monetary Board of Sri Lanka have been named as respondents in the petition. The appeal court has ordered for the objections to be filed on or before the 5th of January. The court also ordered counter-objections to be made on or before the 7th of January next year. The petition was taken up before a judge bench of Justices Sobhita Rajakaruna and Dhammika Ganepola today. Appearing for the respondents, President's counsel Romesh De Silva told the court they haven't received notices from the petitioners. He also told the court that he would accept notices on behalf of the respondents and that limited objections would be filed against the petition. The judge bench directed the petitioner to serve notices to him as the finance minister, who is the third respondent in the petition, was not represented by a lawyer in court. The respondents are Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa, Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivad Cabral and the Central Bank's Monetary Board. The hearing of the petition was postponed until the 10th of January. Moving on, the Consumer Affairs Authority says it has rejected a ship carrying a consignment of gas. The Consumer Affairs Authority's chairman, retired Major General Shanta Dissanayake, said the gas consignment was rejected after tests had shown that the gas leak detecting the odorant mercaptan was not up to standard. He added that the distribution of these stocks to the people has been suspended. Litrogas Lanka Limited informed the appeal court today that the Sri Lanka Standards Institute does not have set standards on the composition of gas cylinders. The gas company has told the court that gas cylinders approved by the Sri Lanka Standards Institute will be released to the market in future. Litrogas Lanka Limited added that the company only distributes gas cylinders that are manufactured in line with the standards approved by the Sri Lanka Standards Institute. The company had also told the court that a shortage of gas would be inevitable until new cylinders are issued after recalling old gas cylinders from the market. The appeal court today ordered Gas Lanka Limited to inform court tomorrow through an affidavit on the steps it hopes to take on the distribution of gas cylinders. The order was issued when the court took up a writ petition seeking criminal action against the gas companies and those responsible for importing and distributing unsafe domestic gas cylinders. The petition, filed by Nagananda Kodituaku, was heard by a bench comprising Justices Ruan Fernando and Sampath Vijayratna. Gas explosions continue to be reported from various parts of the country. A gas cooker had exploded in Alupathwila in Bandaragama last night. Another gas cooker had exploded at a house in Busa moments after the occupants had cooked breakfast. Gas explosions were reported in other parts of the country as well. Now, these were the views expressed by Minister Vimal Veeravansha during an event held in Ahaliaguda yesterday.
These are the repercussions that we are facing as a result of our journey of obtaining loans in an open economy. These are the challenges that we have to face. The repercussions struck as much earlier than expected because of COVID-19 and also because of the tourism industry was badly affected after April 21st attacks. Otherwise, we could have bought off some more time. Even Punchi Banda knows that. His presence hasn't benefited the country or brought prosperity. I don't understand why he is allowed to function in the first place. This is how Punchi Banda handled the economy for more than 20 years. He obtains loans and somehow runs the country. If a vehicle doesn't start, he knows how to start it temporarily, but he doesn't know that there is no fuel. He doesn't look into the fuel stocks in the country. He does not know how far the vehicle can travel with the available fuel. If that matter was looked into, the previous leaders of this country should have been warned about this. He should have done this if he was on the side of the leaders.
MP Patili Champikaranawaka expressed the following views on the country's economy.
What would be the situation in 2022? This is the amount of debt that we have to settle in 2022. The figure stands at more than $7 billion. We only have $1.15 billion in hand. We must repay more than $941 million of our debt in January. The central bank doesn't have the money for that. We are going to become bankrupt for the first time since gaining independence. This is something that we have been warning about for several years. The people have to now face the burden of development projects that were carried out by obtaining loans at high interest rates and also a commission of 400%. In a country where there is no milk powder, gas, kerosene, Sri Lanka is heading to a dangerous situation where there won't be any power. They are trying to shift the blame onto President Secretary P.B. Jayasundara. P.B. Jayasundara and Najib Niwad Cabral must be held responsible for this crisis. The main official who should be held responsible is Jayasundara. But sending Jayasundara home doesn't resolve the problem. That is because the root cause of this problem is the Rajapaksas and the Rajapaksa family. By sending Jayasundara home, only he will be safe. The people will have to face the brunt of this in the coming weeks. An intelligent investor won't come to Sri Lanka. That's because the country is going to become bankrupt.
The Attorney General has informed the Colombo Permanent High Court Trial at Bar that former Intelligence Chief Cicero Mendes won't be called in as a witness in the case against former Defence Secretary Hemisri Fernando. The former Defence Secretary is charged with failing to take action to prevent the 2019 April 21st attacks from taking place.
Cicero Mendes, who has been named by the Attorney General as the third witness in the case, appeared in court today to provide evidence. President's counsel Shanaka Ranasinghe, who appeared for him, presented a medical report to the court. The President's counsel noted that the medical report was obtained on the 28th of October 2019 and based on this report, his client has provided evidence to the Presidential Commission and was present in court today to provide evidence as a witness. Deputy Solicitor General Sudarshana De Silva, who appeared for the Attorney General, requested for a fresh medical report to determine if the witness was in a suitable mental state to testify in court. The judge bench noted, based on the medical report that was produced to the court, it was evident that the witness was not suffering from any mental issue and therefore there was nothing preventing from recording the evidence from the witness. Deputy Solicitor General Sudarshana De Silva, appearing for the Attorney General, requested that time be given to inform whether the testimony of the former Chief of National Intelligence would be called in this case. Shortly after the court hearing, the Deputy Solicitor General stated that the testimony of Sisira Mendes would not be called in this case. Further examination of the case was postponed to 18 January 2022.
Ahnaf Jazim, a young poet charged under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, was granted bail today.
The Puttalam High Court today ordered 26-year-old poet Ahnaf Jazim to be released on bail. This was on 3 surety bails of 500,000 rupees each. The court had also ordered the accused to appear before the Terrorist Investigation Division on the first and last Sunday of every month. The 26-year-old poet Ahnaf Jazim was indicted under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The case at the Puttalam High Court will be taken up again on the 6th of January.
Moving on, the Supreme Court today directed that the fundamental rights petition filed against the arrest of former governor of the Western Province, Azad Sali, and his detention under the Prevention of Terrorism Act at the Criminal Investigation Department be heard on the 6th of June 2022.
The petition was taken up before a panel of Supreme Court judges comprising of Gamini Amarasekara, Kumudini Wickramasinghe and Mahinda Samewardana. The Supreme Court had earlier granted leave to hear the petitions on the ground that the fundamental rights guaranteed by Articles 12 subsection 1, 13 subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution could be violated. The petition named the Inspector General of Police, the Director of the CID and Attorney at Law Nishantha De Soiza, its Chief Inspector Jayantha Payagala, the Minister of Public Security, retired Rear Admiral Sarath Weerasekara, and the Secretary to the Ministry, Major General retired Jagat Alves, as the respondents.
A train strike left several passengers and tourists stranded at railway stations this afternoon.
The trade union representing engine drivers and railway controllers had launched a strike this afternoon. This was against an agreement signed on train tickets and the termination of the services of 82 employees who did not report to work during the pandemic.
I came here at 10:30 this morning and I bought a ticket and I interfaced with 3 people with the railway services, asking them which stop I needed, buying the ticket, and nobody told me that there was a strike. So I have waited around for 4 hours to catch the train. I now come back here, no trains. Nobody tells me anything.
This was the situation at the Colombo Fort railway station today.
Meanwhile, 4 people were killed and 4 others were injured in some road accidents which were reported this morning.
Police said the accident took place this morning when the car veered off the road while they were travelling from Matara to Kottava. The deceased included a 4-year-old girl and her 39-year-old father. The injured mother and another child are currently receiving treatment at the intensive care unit of the Nagoda Hospital in Kalutara. A mother and her son were killed when a motorcycle crashed onto a tree in Irattakulama in Puttalam. They had met with this accident while returning after visiting a patient in Anuradhapura. A train travelling from Ramukkana to Colombo had collided with a tipper truck at a railway crossing in Mirigama this morning. The tipper truck travelling from Ramukkana to Colombo had collided at around 5:50 this morning. The driver of the tipper truck was injured.
In more local news, 250 kilograms of heroin recovered from a multi-day trawler 900 nautical miles off the coast of Sri Lanka were brought ashore today. The Navy says the heroin has a street value of more than 2.5 billion rupees.
The Navy had recovered 250 kilograms of heroin from a trawler during a 25-day operation with the support of the Police Narcotics Bureau. The heroin was seized by the Navy on Saturday. We've never seen this quantity of narcotics before. The security forces are continuing to carry out such operations. The Sri Lanka Navy hopes to continue this anti-narcotic operation in line with the government's policy in collaboration with all intelligence units in international waters. It is suspected that the stash of heroin has been sent by an underworld leader from Dubai. An Iranian and an Afghan have been handed over to the Police Narcotics Bureau for further investigation.
Raja Surya took office as the new chairman of Sri Lanka's Board of Investment today.
He assumed office after practicing in religious observances. The new chairman spoke about Sri Lanka's future plans in terms of investments and the economy.
If you look outside, right behind me, you will see Port City. During the reclamation process and infrastructure construction in 2019, we have been able to attract over $4 billion. During the construction process, we expect to attract $6 billion FDIs coming into the country. So the major beneficiary out of this will be the construction industry. Construction industry will create 365,000 jobs for the Port City project. The way I see Sri Lanka economy is ready to bounce back. I see it as a V curve. Within the first quarter of this next year, that is 2022 around the corner, we are expecting the economy to recover.
The new chairman noted that Sri Lanka has attracted $687 million in foreign direct investments for the third quarter of this year.
In some tragic news, Group Captain Varun Singh, the last person alive in last week's helicopter crash that killed India's Chief of Defence Staff, died today.
Group Captain Varun Singh died today while being treated for severe burns at a military hospital in India's city of Bengaluru. Officials said he had been on life support. The Indian Air Force said it, quote, conveys its sincere condolences and stands firm with the bereaved family, end quote. 13 people, including India's Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat, were killed instantly in last week's helicopter crash. Group Captain Varun Singh was the only officer involved in the crash who was rescued. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted his condolences over the death of the officer. He said, quote, I'm extremely anguished by his passing away. His rich service to the nation will never be forgotten, end quote.
Lewis Hamilton received a knighthood for his service to motorsport just 3 days after he was denied an 8th Formula One driver's title. Sri Lanka's traditional craftsmanship of Dumbara weaving was officially declared as a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage today. Newsfirst's Ruhaza Irfan reports on the beauty of this industry that has added more color to Sri Lanka. We leave you tonight with a Newsfirst special. For the Newsfirst team, I've been Miyuki Portia along with our sign language interpreter Brenda Cruz via Zoom. Take care and good night.
Dumbara Ratakalala or Dumbara weaving is now a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. The traditional craftsmanship gets its name from the Dumbara Valley located in the central hills of Sri Lanka. Craftsmen have been involved in Dumbara weaving for centuries. It takes a great amount of concentration, talent and time to produce a masterpiece. Dumbara mats have also been used in palaces in the ancient times of Sinhalese kings. Dumbara weaving is popular in two main villages. They are Kalasirigama in the Kandy district and Alokagama in the Matale district.
එතකොට ගමේ ඇවිදලා තමයි වික්කේ. පෙරදහක් කමාරක් අතේ ළඟ නැහැ. අය කායෙන් හරි ගනුදෙනු කරලා තමයි යන කපන්න යන්නේ. ඒ වගේ තමයි අපි ඒ කාලේ ජීවත් වුනේ.
The craft involves making a type of mat used as wall hangings, tapestries or cushion covers with designs using the fiber of the hana plant. Craftsmen separate the fiber of the leaves by hand, then washed, sun-dried and then dyed. They then weave the mats on a simple loom fixed to the floor. It takes takes days and months to make these handmade mats, and if with one wrong move, they would have to start all over again. But these craftsmen are determined to preserve this unique heritage.